We are on air.
It's happening.
Yes, it is.
One of these days we'll learn how to do this with some professionalism. It's happening.
Oh, God. Okay. All
Tip
right.
open a paradox.
Well, I opened it so I could watch the chat.
You gotta mute it, Tiff.
I
Come on.
muted it. Relax. All
It
right.
supports my professionalism comment.
I need more desk space. All right. So, are we ready to go? Should I start some music?
Oh, we're in it, so
All
let's
right.
just go ahead.
Okay. Here's the music. Nope. That's bad. Yep, this whole professionalism thing is hard, guys.
Overrated.
Let me try it one more time. Like, I really need to mess with our theme song because it's not right.
Is there a way we can go live but not actually go live so we can practice this?
Nope. Alright, now we're good. I promise this time.
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 44 of the podcast of Nonsensical Gamers. And we are live. My name is Matt, and joining me on the cast today are my two wonderful co-hosts, Miss Tiffany B.
Hello.
And Dan.
Ladies.
Thank you all for joining us. If you don't know who we are, or you ever want to reach out to us, you can do so on Facebook by searching for the League of Nonsensical Gamers. Feel free to shoot us an email at podcast@nonsensicalgamers.com. Find us over on the BGG Guild number 2077, or chat with us on places like Twitter and Instagram. Today's show is going to be a good one. As I said, we are live again here in April, and we have a couple cool things lined up. We are going to do a discussion on game labels and gaming jargon, talk about some of the words we use while we're gaming. I have a contest announcement that I don't know that I told Dan and Tiff about, so that'll be fun to talk about in about 10 minutes. But before we do any of that, we are going to talk a little bit about what we've been playing. And let's start with Miss Tiffany B. What have you been playing?
I picked up Stone Age, or my first Stone Age. So it's a cute looking version of Stone Age meant for younger kids. It's a little bit different, so I'll try to explain how the game works first. You have different places on the board that you can go, but you're going there not by exactly roll and move, but you're moving through them. They're on like a track that you go. So those stations that you go to have different kinds of resources that you're trying to collect to build buildings. And the whole goal of the game is to be the first person to build 3 buildings. Around the outside of the board, you have different tiles, and the different tiles have a combination of dice faces, so, 1 through 6, and just pictures of the different resources, or there's the hut tile that lets you go to the hut and build a hut. So on your turn, you flip over one of those tiles and you move the correct amount or to the place that it says to go, and you take your turn. So there's a little bit of a memory aspect to it. When you flip over the hut tile, all the previously flipped over tiles get flipped back over, and you switch a couple around and continue play. I played this with 13-year-olds. They thought it was boring. And so did I.
What's
Awesome.
the age range?
It's, oh gosh.
I thought it was like 5, isn't it?
It is. It starts real low. I can't remember now. I don't have it up. It's not that important. In any case, we did have a lot of fun. It's 5+, so you can teach it to a 5-year-old. It would be appropriate for, like, I'd say 5 to 10. I think my 6th graders probably could have gotten into it a little bit more, but we ended up just like making up variants to make it harder.
Or you
And
could
that
just
was,
play Stone Age.
well, right. I bought the game and I wanted to try it.
I know.
I believe me, we play Stone Age.
I know. I'm just the variant for my first Stone Age is Stone Age.
Yeah.
What kind of
Well,
things did you do to vary it?
We made it so you. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the ones we did. So we made it so you switch more tiles when you have to flip them back over. Because I think in the rules you're switching two different tiles. So it's really easy to remember what's been flipped. So if you switch a couple more of them to different places, it makes it a lot harder to remember where they are. And that was honestly probably enough to give it a little bit more challenge. I just felt like, at least when I was playing it, that I wasn't paying that much attention to the memory part of it, and I was just flipping tiles and going there and getting things, and it worked out. I still won. So I don't know. We also played a partners version where you had your resources still secret, and when you built a tile, you had to build it with at least one resource from your partner. But I don't know. We played it. It wasn't terrible, and I could definitely see where if you had really young kids, it would be a thing to do. But I don't think, like, this isn't one of those kids games that gamers are going to enjoy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Were you expecting to?
No.
How disappointed are you?
I'm not super disappointed. And to be completely fair, it's so much faster.
Yeah.
Like, we played the game probably 3 times in the span of, like, 45 minutes. With our different variants. So
Sounds like a
it
Hobbit
looks
game.
super cute, though, doesn't it?
it's really cute, and it does play fast. So I think it's like a thing where when I start Board Game Club at the beginning of the year, those really young 6th graders who have a hard time like digesting rules, it would be a good game to start off with, you know. But it's definitely, I picked the wrong kids to try it out with. They just happened to be the only kids that were there on that day. It's nice outside. Not as many kids coming to Board Game Club, so.
You got to take Board Game Club outside. That's a great activity.
Oh God, no. I mean,
Why?
I still have. Like this last week, we played Code Names too, and we were all able to play it, and that worked out really well.
Yeah.
We did 6th graders versus 8th graders.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Battle of the more educated and less educated.
Yeah.
Super fair. All right. Side note, I think I just fixed a technical issue if you're trying to watch the feed, so hopefully that worked. Now, Dan, tell me what you've been playing.
Still not that much, unfortunately, but that will pick up here soon, considering my wife and son have departed for France for the next 2 months, and I have nothing to do but twiddle my thumbs. So I guess the most recent thing I played was Quadropolis, which was on my top of the stack. What? So cross one of the 3 off. This is the new Days of Wonder Asmodee release. It's a abstract city building game for the most part. There's not a whole ton of think of like Suburbia as far as like as much as you're going to get immersed in the building of a city. But also, you know, with Suburbia as a comparison, this is a much more streamlined and easy to teach version of it, in my opinion, with the same sort of feel, you know, and the same sort of kind of city building aspects to it, etc., where things are positioned, give you points, etc. The really cool thing about this game is the central tile mechanic. That is how you're going to pick your tiles. There's a 5x5 grid in the middle of the table, and I'm going to talk about the base version right now, and then I'll go into like the expert mode and how it's different. But the base mode, every player is given 4 architects, numbered 1, 2, 3, or 4. And what you're going to do is, as I mentioned, there's a 5x5 grid, and on your turn, you're going to take one of your architects and you're going to place it on one of the columns or rows on any side of the square. Okay, so just put it on one of the sides of the 5x5 square, and this dictates what city tile you get to choose based on the number of the architect that you pick. So if I pick the number 2 architect and I put it in the 2nd row, I'm going to take the the city tile that is in the second column of the second row, because that's where I placed it. And what that does is, not only does it block that space on the square, so where I placed my architect from someone else placing there, but it also, you put what's called the little, I forget what it's called, the little city meeple thing. It's really translucent and pretty. But that will block anyone from taking a tile in that row or column until the city thing moves the next turn. So there's a slight little way to hinder your opponent, at least the person to your left in this case. But when you take the tile, not only, again, the restrictions on what you picked are dictated by that architect, but where you can place it on your board is also dictated by that architect. You have a 4x4 board that's broken into 4 quadrants of 4, and then they're numbered 1 through 4 on the columns and rows axis. And again, if you selected that 2 architect, so you're taking that second tile in the grid up top, and then you have to place it in either the number 2 column or the number 2 row on your player board. And it gets into all this little, at first it's like, oh, there's nothing to this, but as you get into like rounds 2 and 3, you start to see where, maybe I should have done a little bit better in my city planning, because I'm unable to take certain tiles to place in certain quadrants, and the name of the game is scoring these tiles based on how they're positioned. And I think in the base game there's 6 different ways you can score, I think, 5 or 6. So 6 different types of tiles you're building. There's parks, there's townhouses, there's shops, there's factories, there's harbors, and they each have a different scoring mechanism based on how they're positioned and what's positioned around them. So again, similar to like something like Suburbia, where everything is location, 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 just like real estate. So I really like it. The base game, as I mentioned, it's simple. You can explain the game in 5 minutes, but it's still thinky enough that I get enjoyment out of it, and the people I played it with really liked it. I had tested this back at Gen Con last year. Tiff and I watched it. Well, we didn't test it, we watched it, and then I played it at New York Tour Fair, and I was really excited about it. So definitely another really good kind of family-style game in the same ilk as like a Five Tribes from Days of Wonder. I'm glad to see them. Production quality is amazing, and yeah, I highly recommend this one if you like a streamlined, like I said, family weight, kind of light to medium city builder. And there is an expert mode, which really kind of ups the ante for it as well.
That's what I was going to ask. Have you gotten a chance to play the expert mode yet?
I have played the expert mode. So how the expert mode differs is, number one, it adds 2 new scoring ways. So I think there's 8 in total. It adds an extra quadrant, so there's 5 quadrants on the board, so you've got like a little, I think it's like a cross in the middle that separates them. And then it adds another round, so you play 5 rounds instead of 4. And then the main difference is the architects. So as I mentioned before, each player in the base mode gets architects numbered 1 through 4. In the advanced mode, you deal out architects 1 through 5 for the number of players there are. So if there's 3 players, you're going to have 3 1s, 3 2s, 3 3s, 3 4s, 3 5s, and they're drafted instead. So it's a little more, you got to plan what you think your opponents are going to do, which ones they want to select. So it's a little bit more thinky in that way, but still keeps it right around like the 75-minute mark, even on the advanced version. The basic version you can play in probably about 45 minutes. So but they both can be played. I think once you get going, you could play both modes in under an hour, which is great for the enjoyment I get out of this game.
Yeah, when I played the base game with Steve, and we played a 2-player, I don't know how I felt about the basic version. I mean, that seems to be the more family-friendly
2 players
style.
not the way to play it.
I mean, it worked. It was still enjoyable to some extent. When you play with less than 4 players, some of the tiles get flipped face down, so there's like this risk. And I was trying to push Steve into taking face down tiles a lot, just to kind of mess with him, so that he had to take random stuff. Which there was some fun in that. Yeah. The 2 games seem very different. The two modes almost like the expert game seems like the game that I'm actually buying it for. And that family style, at least in our group, that like basic version, family style version, just seems a little too light, I guess, is what I was thinking.
Nah, I think the more you play it, the more you'll see some of the synergies that you can build with the boards, and it's still the 1 through 4 restrictions is kind of interesting still. I like to play this with. I've played it with 3 and 4. We played it with 4 last Sunday after your wedding, and Mike, our brother, loved it. He really enjoyed it. The base version. I'm not sure, if he'd care for the advanced version. I'm sure he would because he liked it. But yeah, there's so many different, well, not so many, but there's enough different strategies, and it's ripe for just sticking expansions in there, switching up the buildings. So I thought it was good. Like I said, I think you need to play the base version first. A lot of these games, like I talk about Kramer and Kiesling, they always have like an advanced version and a kind of base version, and usually in their games I skip right to the advanced version, but I think with this one it helps you understand the scoring methodologies that are kind of taking place, the different mechanisms, how things kind of intertwine in your work. So I personally, I recommend starting with the base game. If it's too light for you, fine, just bump it up to expert. I think you'll find expert to be just as challenging. Not just as, I think more challenging, sorry.
Unfortunately, this is another vacuform insert that's too perfect and is not ripe for expansion.
Well, you can stick them under the thing. So.
I was reading in the comments for this one because I was really interested in buying it, and especially after seeing it at Gen Con because it's so pretty. But a lot of the people who don't like this game say it's just kind of samey, boring, and maybe not very thematic feeling. I know Dan probably doesn't matter. Yeah.
No, it's like Suburbia. There's no theme in Suburbia. Other than you shouldn't build a factory next to a residential.
Well, you're building a city, like a city layout, and the way that they interact, it pushes you to build things. That's
a city layout. It's just more confined and a little bit more restrictive.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like. I like the puzzly feel of this because when you're selecting with that architect, you can only put it in row 2 or 3, and you got to have a little foresight into rounds 3, 4, 5, where the better buildings are coming out, but you may not have the location to put them in at some point. So, yeah, I could see people not liking this. That's fine. I found it enjoyable for what it was. Like I said, an under 60-minute little city builder with really nice components and art.
I mean, you played it multiple times. Did you feel any of that sameness? Because I could see that comment, at least for that base version. That stands out as potentially a valid comment.
I think I'd be curious to see how many people they're playing with, because I think the more people you have, the more kind of it really narrows your focus on the top board. And like, for instance, I had to go in like a different direction Mike went, and Mike went in a different direction than Steve went, so you kind of had to hone your focus a little bit. I've never done the same thing twice, but I'm not the type of person either that's going to play this 12 times, like in a weekend kind of thing, which some people may do, and it may feel like that. I think that's another reason I like space out my plays of games, because they still feel fresh when I bring them back out if I enjoyed it the first time, kind of thing. I can't say I've only played it. I've only played the real version twice since then. So I don't want to comment on that if people are going to take my opinion to heart. I can't answer it. I don't think 2 plays is enough to answer that. I hope to play it more and then review it.
All right. Well, one of the games that I got to play is a new game that just came out. Oh, what's today? Saturday? So it came out 2 days ago on Thursday. It's Android Mainframe, a game that I think we've talked about in the news that you guys haven't really cared about, but one that I'm digging on. One because it's abstract, an abstract that plays 2 to 4 players, in fact, and it's Android, like the universe from FFG. So I am all about those 2 things put together. I got 1 play in with Kel last night. Had a lot of fun. Essentially, what this game is remember that? Did you guys ever play that
just connect
game?
The dots. That's all it is.
Is that what that's called? Connect the dots, where you just make the lines and then you put your initial in the box when you make a box, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's all kinds of names like squares and 4 corners and.
It's kind of like that game. It's not exactly like that. It's not that simplistic. It's got a little bit more going on, but that's what it's most akin to. Essentially, what you have is you have a big rectangular board that has squares in it, and then it has along the lines, like imagine like where the grid lines would be of the board, those are inlays where you can lay these little dividers in, these little sticks. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to create zones, which are just completely walled off areas that have only your control marker in the middle of it. And the way that you do that is you execute programs, which basically means you take action cards. And there's a row of open action cards in the middle. Excuse me. And you're going to be selecting one of those, and you do the action, and then your turn's over. So those allow you to place the walls down. They allow you to move the walls around. They allow you to place your control markers, and they allow you to swap control markers. And you have a couple of special action cards that are specific to your character that give you start with 3 of them, so those are your special abilities for the game, and once you use them, they're gone. And essentially, with 2 players, it was a little wide open. We were able to maneuver a lot and kind of do what we needed to do. I think it would get a lot tighter with 3 and 4, so I'll be interested to see. You just don't have a lot of abstract games, strictly abstract games. I play 3 and 4, but I enjoyed it. It was much more take that than I was expecting, though, because there are just a ton of abilities that let you move other people's stuff, let you move their control points and move your control points in. At any time for your action, you can discard a card to drop a control point anywhere on the board that's open, and that allows you to stop people from taking control, because you can only score those points if you're the only person controlling the area. So a lot of kind of, take that tactics, a very tactical style game, not a lot of long-term strategy just because things move so fast. But I mean, I liked it. Price point's $35, production value warrants that, and a game that hopefully I can get to play. It just gives me an option to play with more than 2 players, this style of game, which I don't always have. So I know probably not your guys' bag, though.
Gee, an abstract game based on Android? Sign me up.
That's what I figured, Tiff.
Yeah.
Plays 2 to 4, we can play it together. All 3 of us.
I'd be much more likely to try something like this out. Like when I played the card game, I really super duper hated it. And for whatever reason, the weird, what do they call this, cyberpunk type themes don't grab me. I don't know.
Well, I mean, honestly, this one doesn't have a whole lot of theme. Kel just picked the player that was green because that's her player color. The board is just black with little blue sticks on it that you lay for the walls.
The board looks cool.
But I was like, oh, I'm gonna play Adam, and he's this android who broke free from the mainframe and started killing people, and he's so cool, and this is why his ability is this way, and this is what this program does. But really, Kel's like, I'm gonna lay 3 blue sticks down. So
right.
You can just play it abstract. You can ignore the theme.
It looks interesting. I feel like it has some table appeal. So yeah.
It's an old game. I think it's a re-implementation of Bauhaus, which is a 2012 game of the same thing, but that was just pure abstract. That had no theme. And Fantasy Flight did this. I wish it was Shadowrun. Android doesn't do anything for me. Shadowrun's my cyberpunk setting of choice.
Oh, those things aren't the same thing?
No. Shadowrun
Android
mixes magic and dwarves and elves and stuff, which are cooler for me.
Yeah, Shadowrun's not strictly cyberpunk, it's cyberpunk fantasy. And Android is a very realistic humanoid, humanish, modern society in the future. So
Wow. I don't know what to think about either of those. Okay.
I'm a nerd for this Android stuff, and I got the source book that they released recently, and I read through that. I'm still reading through it. But I just like the portrayal of Earth, of real life, kind of alternate history in the future. It's based in some kind of reality, and I just think it's kind of cool to dig into. But that's me. I'm a weirdo. So let's move back in.
Weirdos.
What have you been playing that does not involve circuit boards or mainframes or dwarves?
Well, one of the games that I played, this is a while back, but I didn't get a chance to mention it, was another Bowser game that I had never heard of. He has a lot of weird games out there that maybe a lot of people haven't played, but it's called Hurry Cup. It was released in 2008, so I guess it's kind of old, and it's a racing game. It's kind of a family weight game. You have modular tiles that you lay out to set up the board, so you can kind of set it up however you want. but the way the game works is it has a little bit of dexterity mixed in with it. When you go to take your turns, there are 4 dice that are the 4 different colors, and you shake those up in a cup, put them down, reveal them, and then everybody just grabs for the die that they want. And the die that you grab plus you roll another die, the accelerator die, give you how far you're going to go. So it's kind of like a complicated roll and move. And the problem is, the reason you wouldn't want to grab like the highest die every single time is because there are speed limits on those tiles that you're moving on. So if you had a really high number and then had your accelerator added to it, if you go past that speed limit, you stop on that tile. So you could stop really easily if you just went for it every single time. There are like one-time use things that let you break the rules, so like you might be able to jump a space, things like that. And I don't know, it was okay. It's cute. I guess I haven't been playing like games that I'm super into lately, but for this one, there's the dexterity element of you grab those dice, but like it's almost like you just grab a die. Like that's how it felt for me anyway. It's just like as soon as the cup is revealed, you just grab one. You don't really have time to process like, okay, I can go 4 spaces, or like I want to go 4 spaces and this is what, you don't have time to do that. So you're just grabbing a die and hoping for the best. And it's probably why no one's ever heard of this game.
How did you say you came across this?
Kyle.
Yeah, oh, Kyle.
Friend of the show, Kyle. I wonder if he got it in like a math trade kind of deal, or he picked it up super cheap. He looks for interesting bargain games, which I do appreciate. But this one was not my favorite.
It was just on sale for $7.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Why is Dan not like swooning or singing the praises of Bowser? I'm confused why we haven't had any fanfare.
Because you said dice and roll and move. I mean, the guy's allowed to have a couple of crappy games.
You're so quick to get
up on him. Like Kenner Jaris. He'll probably have another one soon. Like, he's okay.
I thought you'd play anything by him.
I would play it. I would try it, but I'm not like dying. He's got a couple of games. He's got the Garage Band game that I stare at all the time that I'm like, no. He's got a few.
I mean, it's a quick little family game. It's not the worst thing you could ever play. It's just, I don't know, not my style. I generally don't like racing games anyway.
So you've played 2 duds. Which one was better than the other?
I probably, they're equally. I probably had more fun playing Hurry Cup.
Okay. There we go. So when you're
Bowser
faced with
brings the fun.
There we go.
Well, because it's just like I'm shredding the skin off of all of my friends as I grab for the dice that I want. Just jump in there with that. But
yeah, I don't like grabby games like that.
Jungle Speed.
That one's okay.
Oh my gosh.
I prefer to play it on the app, so I do maintain like my beautiful hand skin.
Did I tell you about the time?
Not Jungle Speed. Sorry, I was thinking of Ghost Blitz.
Oh.
One time we were playing Jungle Speed, and I have the one with the wooden totem. They got rid of that because, it's dangerous, and I found out why. Because someone went to go grab it, and I was smiling, and it launched right into my teeth. It hurt a lot. Yeah.
Statistics show that at least 2 people die annually from Jungle Speed.
There's an awesome video on YouTube of people who play Jungle Speed where they put the totem like in another room. So once the 2 people get their match, they sprint and like shove each other into all kinds of stuff down the hallway to get to the totem. It's pretty awesome.
It's like a rare breed of athletic nerds.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, Dan. What else have you been playing?
What else did I play recently? You guys already talked about Oregon. I played that again.
How was that experience?
That was, well, I played that with Mike and Steve, and Mike hated it, so naturally it made the game kind of, it's
did
okay.
Did he have anything valid to say about it? Like,
no, yeah, the way that you can't, like, it's very card draw dependent, that game, and Matt's probably already talked about this, so I won't go into the mechanics, but for me, that's the biggest downside, and there's no way to discard to, like, refresh your hand in any way, so you have to do the most with what you're given, which I guess I can get behind in a way, but for someone who's a little more casual and likes more strategic games, he felt that he couldn't really set anything up. So I couldn't fault him. I understand why he didn't like it. It was kind of funny because he's just like, I need a buffalo, and then he'd draw a card, and it's like, that's not a buffalo. And he kept going on looking for a buffalo. It took him like 6 turns to get a buffalo, which was kind of annoying. I wound up like stomping everyone in that game. I was ahead by like 45 points at the end of the game, but it was their first plays of it, and I kind of had an understanding of what I needed to do, so I got that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not entirely sold on it. I think I like it, but I don't love it. It's just, yeah, I need something to do with that. Something needs to happen with that card draw. It's giving me Bruges feels.
Best to set up like multiple things across the board, because I mean the game tempts you and taunts you into focusing in one area to build up those combos, but do you think it would be better to kind of like set up small options across the card types so that no matter what you draw, you have something to build on?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of ways you can play it. Like I said, I kind of figured out what I was doing, and even when I didn't have a play, I'd just go throw a dude out there or go throw a building out there, just so it was there. One thing, Matt, you and I didn't play, that was my fault, obviously, first play, was that if you create a group of 3, you get 5 bonus points.
Okay.
So, again, if you can draw into like the areas where you can make a group of 3, it's awesome. I did that a lot. But also you want to be cognizant of not setting people up for that group of 3, because 5 points is 5 points. I mean, it's a pretty good amount. So, yeah, I would play it again. I want to try it with 4. I've played it with 2 and 3. I'd like to try it with the full complement to see how the board kind of fleshes out a little bit more, which may be best with 4, because then the card draw maybe nullifies a little bit because there's so many more options. People are putting different things out on the board, and it might just be easier to kind of traverse where you need to traverse, kind of things. But yeah, overall, I like a lot of the mechanics in it. I think it's got some solid ideas. But again, I hate those card draw dependent games where I can't really set myself up as best I can. It's ultimately optimizing what you're given, but there's no way to really get rid of what you're given in the same aspect, if that makes sense. I just wish there was like a discard mechanic. Like at the end of your turn, you can discard and redraw back to 4 or something like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's not the game you wanted to talk about, so give me something else.
No, that's fine. I can talk about that. I played Survive Escape from Atlantis. That game is past its prime. I'll just say that. I had no fun playing that. It was just, it has its audience, and it's not me. I've firmly determined that. So, yeah.
Well, okay.
I have no fun playing it. I don't know why. I just don't have any fun playing it.
I mean, you don't have fun playing anything, so it's fine.
I have 300 and some games, as I always say, that I have.
And he doesn't like any of them. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna leave it.
Well, I tried. Live viewers and listeners. I tried to poke the bear.
I'm not gonna poke the bear. It's probably on your shelf. That's why you're defending it, because it's a crappy game. But it's okay.
Well, there's a difference between not liking the game and thinking it's a crappy game. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So do you think
mechanically the base game's boring?
You think that it's mechanically a problem, or you just think that you're somebody who plays a different style of game?
I don't know. I don't really even pay attention. Like, I was just going through the motions when I was playing. Someone said, "Can we play this?" And I was like, "Fine." So I played it.
Well,
I'm sure there was
the pity play.
That's always a good way to start off a game. Like, you want to play this? All right, whatever.
No, but okay.
No.
It's going to be enjoyable then.
I could find other ways to have fun with it. I started building stacks of whales. That was fun. I tried to see how high the whales could go, and then I put the dolphins on top of the whales, and then I tried to get the squid at the top, and it fell.
Oh, that's sad, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, you're a
It's
riot at
cool.
game night. All right.
I
So
do.
should I talk about another abstract game, or should I make veiled comments about our Start to the Third Time Stories expansion?
Veiled comments sound good.
Veiled comments. All right. But I tweeted out that I was going to talk about Onitama. It's an abstract
Okay,
game and it's great.
do it.
Anyway, Time Stories. We started playing Prophecy of Dragons. We did one whole run, and somehow they still managed to make this game different. I don't get how the games can be so drastically different every time within the same system. It's wild. This one is a fantasy-themed game instead of the Zombies of Past or the Asylum. But in it, you basically take on it's very kind of D&D-esque, where you have these classic roles of like a thief or a wizard or a healer or something like that, and you're running around. I'm not going to spoil the story, but you're trying to do stuff and get things. And in this one, it's kind of unfolded in a completely different way from the other two. Still, you've got a different puzzle overall. You've got different mini puzzles within that. They've been doing creative things with the card layouts and how you kind of interact with the different locations. And again, they've changed what the generic tokens mean. So now there's magic in this system as a way to do combat. And you've got spells that you can cast if you have that ability. So they've taken just these prototype components, like we talked again, and they've just transformed it into something that still manages to feel thematic, still manages to feel like a good story. It all makes sense, and I have no idea where we're going in terms of the story or the puzzle, because we only did one run, and a lot of that is just kind of poking around to see what you find. But I'm excited for it. I was hoping to play it this weekend, but maybe we'll have to look into another day that Dan does not have a child. So I'm excited for it. I mean, I think it was cool. I don't know how you're feeling about it, Dan.
I have 54 of those days left.
Perfect. We'll fit one in.
But who's counting? I'm going to start off by saying none of them have grabbed me like the first one. I think that first one really set the bar high, and these other ones haven't really grabbed me as much. But that being said, I already like this one better than Marcy Case. That's for sure. I really would like more puzzles, though. Like, that was the one that really grabbed me in the first one, was like the little puzzly aspects about it. From what I've read, Under the Mask really gets back to that as the core of its gameplay, which I'm really excited about. But like you said, it's always cool cracking the packs and seeing what different things they've come up with for like the generic tokens and the setting and then the characters. And this has the old Vincent Dutrait art, which it looks really nice. It's like really pretty on the eyes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing it. I really enjoyed it. It's not that I haven't enjoyed the other ones, but nothing's really kind of grabbed hold of me like that first one. That story gave me like chills. So I'm looking forward.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we're only one run in, and I don't think that we've figured anything out yet.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, nothing. That one grabbed me right off the bat, and I don't know if it was maybe because it was the first one and I didn't know what to expect, and it really kind of wowed me. So I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I wasn't expecting this to be this cool. So I don't know. Maybe it just, like I said, it set the bar high for me. So. But no, I'm liking the setting. I'm liking the different mechanics they've put in this one. So I'm looking forward to finishing it.
Yeah, there's a whole other pack of cards we need to open.
There is.
Don't open.
And when I go to France next month, I'm going to grab Under the Mask so we have it before its U.S. release in July.
Cool. We'll be ahead of the game.
Yep.
Now we just need to play it.
Yep.
All right. Any other stellar standout games that people have been playing, or shall we move along in this live show?
We can move on.
Okay. Hey, do you got any bumper music for me, Tiff?
I do.
All right. Give me some of that sweet, sweet bumper music. Tiff, if you may have misheard me. Give me some of that sweet, sweet bumper music.
I thought that one was cool. It's called
That-
Laconic Granny.
Sounds
Yeah.
like old dude farting.
Yeah, that's like the idea. Do we not like that? I mean, I got other ones.
What else you got? You got a sampler?
Here, I'll try this one.
Hey, let me get the Price Right horn.
No? You guys are.
I like this better. I like this better.
All right. Well, this is the one we'll keep in then. I'll save the granny music for my personal listening pleasures.
That's actually a 23-minute track that Tiff just listens to on loop.
Yep.
While she's doing household chores.
The other one-
all
the
right,
other
everyone.
You should just do the bumper music from now
Yeah,
on.
we
That
just
was
leave that in.
beautiful, Dan.
I can mix some music.
Hi. Okay, the next 10 minutes will be Dan making various sounds. We'll just
I
kind
can
of
do this. Oh, I can do a whole segment of just me doing bumper music. We could plan that. That'll be
All right.
a Patreon stretch goal.
Sounds good.
solid. So friends, you guys don't listen to the podcast, right? You
Nope.
know. the
No, but
podcast
I've
of
been
Nonsensical
having
Gamers.
tweets show up about some sort of contest.
Yeah. You see, when I get to do things by myself, I do things my way, and my way is to give
We need
things
some
away.
Sinatra for this.
Yeah.
This guy's apparently a baller, and we don't know it. Like he's like, oh, I'm just gonna start giving shit out.
Yeah. I just give things away when you guys aren't here to rein me in. So I came up with a little contest that I think hopefully we will all like. So I'm gonna tell you while I tell the listeners and the viewers. Okay, I am calling this the PONG, the Podcast of Nonsensical Gamers tagline contest. Don't you guys think we need a tagline?
Yeah.
We don't have a tagline. It's like the Podcast of Nonsensical Gamers, a show about Dan. That's pretty much
I'm
it.
okay with that tagline.
Do other podcasts have, like, is this a thing that we're really missing? Like,
Yeah, some
Yeah,
shows do,
like-
you know.
Like the Dice Tower is like, hey, we've been doing this too long, so it's not fun anymore.
Happy Tabletop Day!
Come into view, Steve. What is happening?
This is why we shouldn't do live shows.
I don't know what's happening.
Steve's in my house apparently.
Oh,
I don't know why, but
okay.
he said Happy Tabletop Day, everyone.
All right.
No wonder he's not in the chat.
What
Steve,
is
you want to be
this?
on the show?
Is that
You want to be on the show?
Because we're
Say
live.
hi.
Like, everybody's
Say
watching.
hi.
ladies?
Oh, another good
Yeah.
tag.
Steve bringing it with the
Just
ladies.
crashing the podcast.
It's cool. This is what happens when you do shows live.
Yeah.
I was just.
Steven shows up.
What's up, buddy?
I'm playing Netrunner?
Are we?
Yeah, get off here and play Netrunner.
Oh, okay. Guys, I'm gonna go play Netrunner.
I think we're going to have to cut this.
Oh no, it'll stay. Anyway, the Pong tagline contest. People do have shows. Like Dan was saying, they have taglines. Like the Dice Tower is a game for people,
Is it?
a show for people who play games, a
Oh.
show about games and the people who love them.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know that.
Yeah. See, I
A
got
game
it.
about
Got it.
people and who plays them.
Yeah. So I think that's what we need. So what I've done is I seeded this secretly to our listeners in a post-outro podcast that you can listen to if you want to go find it. But basically what I'm going to have people do is I want everyone to send in some taglines, either through Twitter or on a thread that I will create on our BGG Guild number 2077. And this is how it works. I got a whole thing. So people send in a tagline. Send in as many as you like, and each one that you send will be an entry. But here's the deal, we have to like them. So if we don't like them, they won't count as an entry. So this is to negate, to put some quality to the quantity. You can't just spam us with words. they need to amuse us in some way, or pander to Dan's ego or something like that.
That's right. Dance for us, listeners.
Ego.
So, yeah. The way that this will work is we're going to let this contest run probably until our next live show, and maybe we'll just announce it on our next live show. But, it'll go until I say it doesn't go anymore, because, again, doing things my way. And there's going to be 2 winners to the show.
And I have the ego.
Yeah. There's gonna be
I'm doing a contest.
2...
I'm buying games. I'm giving them out. Send me all your words. Dan has an ego.
I think that was our new tagline.
Hey, we
Dan,
can do a show about Dan. I'm okay with that. That
Yeah.
strokes my non-ego.
So there will be 2 winners. One winner will be randomly chosen from the entire lottery pool of entries. So when you send something in, you get an entry, and we'll just do a random number generator on that. The second winner is going to be the person who comes up with the best tagline. So 2 ways to win. If you win one, you can't win the other. We'll do the best tagline first, and then you'll get taken out of the random pool. That's how that works. Okay? Now, here's the deal. I also had people send in what they would like to win because I didn't know what to get them. So you get to choose one of these potential prizes. I'm going to run through them, and we're going to see whether or not we're okay with these. A copy of Quadropolis, the game that we just talked about. A live show where Dan plays Euphoria. Somebody requested that, Dan.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No.
Somebody can choose that as a prize
I'm not
to make you
playing
play
that crap.
Euphoria.
No.
Dan, this is for our listeners.
I love you all dearly, but that game sucks.
We'll make it happen. A copy of Hyperborea, a copy of Karuba, a gift certificate to an online retailer, a Time Stories expansion, a game insert, a Meepolo. Somebody wanted a Meepolo, so that's an option if I can get a hold of one. Above and Below,
I think you should make one.
Blood Rage. You don't want a handmade Meepolo.
Handmade
trust me.
by Matt with love.
Somebody requested some gamer glass,
You
copy
just
of
don't-
Suburbia.
You just don't want a Meepolo he's been alone with.
No. Sad pillow. This is one, Tiff. You got anything sitting around in shipping boxes? Because Patrick wants anything that Tiff has not taken out of a shipping box.
Right now, the only thing I have in shipping boxes is Kingsburg, which I traded for, and I definitely am going to be playing that, Patrick.
Well, then you need to open all your boxes so people can't select things.
All right, done deal.
Ben Beagle's a bum, and he wants a case of Captain Crunch. Odin's Ravens was also an option. Jim and Nate wrote in, and they said that they would like to win playing a game with us. They said
Aw.
you can buy a
So
game, but
sweet.
you can't buy a game session with us. And I said, you can buy a game session with us. $50 a pop.
Everybody has rights.
And then the last one, this is probably, next to the Euphoria game, probably the shakiest, is a guest hosting spot. Somebody said that would be cool. I don't know if we can swing that because we don't do anything with any kind of professionalism, so I don't know how that would work out. But these are some of the prizes that people wanted, and I'm thinking that most of them are reasonable, so you're going to get to choose from one of these options.
It's a lot of options. This is
Well,
the
it is
best
a lot of
contest
options.
ever.
I think it is, but it also helps us get a tagline, which we may or may not use.
Podcast with strangers, though.
Yeah, I don't. That would not.
I'll
be
do it.
Guys,
I'll do it. You can have a one-on-one podcast session with me.
That sounds
ladies.
amazing.
It'll be like a
Euphoria.
Barbara Walters special, and I'll even talk like Barbara Walters the whole time.
Oh, can we get you like a sweet, soft focus like look to you?
Oh
That'd
yeah,
be
with
awesome.
a velvet chair. Done.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
perfect.
figure it, yeah.
I'd watch that.
I think we can actually cancel the contest because Robert Johnson in the chat just said Pong, the podcast that dolphins would listen to if they had internet, and that's pretty much the best tagline we could.
That's pretty good. No, with a dolphin listen, would they have to like send out sonar?
It's so nonsensical, Robert Johnson.
He gets us. But hey, so that's our contest. Is that an okay contest, friends? Because I already did it. It's already happening.
Is that okay? Because we're doing this now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, you can take it up with me, but I probably won't listen. I wanted to say thank you to our listeners and do something special for Tabletop Day. So here we are. We've got a contest. If you have any more questions, listen to the show again, I guess. I don't know. try to get the details that way. And now I think we can just move right along. Dan's getting really itchy because he's afraid that someone will pick a Euphoria game with him. Everyone should pick the game of
I don't have
Euphoria
to
with
show.
Dan.
I'm not playing that crap.
Wouldn't that be the kind thing to do for a listener?
There's nothing euphoric about that. I'd have to be like drunk.
Heyo. Well, I'm sure that could be arranged.
All right. So, Tiff,
Yeah.
I want you to loop 30 seconds of interlude music.
30 seconds of interlude music?
Yep.
I need a warning on
I'll
this.
be right back.
Jeez.
And we'll talk about gaming labels.
You're the worst. I don't have 30 seconds. All of my bumpers are 10 seconds, because who wants to listen to this kind of music for more than 10 seconds?
Are you supposed to leave in the middle of a live show?
I don't think that's how it's supposed to go.
This is not professional.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to do a contest. Oh, now I'm going to get out my effing seat, because that's how badass I am.
Yeah,
what is this? What is this guy?
Wrong.
I have the ego. Look at this guy. I'm wearing a Gryffindor shirt. There's no ego here. What? The minstrels? Oh, okay.
See? So, this can loop forever. This might be the rest of the show.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Oh, look who decided to come back and join us, Mr. I do my things my way. What is it, Frank Sinatra over here?
Sorry, it turns out that Steve drove all this way just to do that.
Oh.
He could have come to my house. I live so much closer.
To crash the podcast. Well, he likes me better. So. Sorry.
Steve did it his way.
Steve is the man. That's the theme of the day. So, Tiff, it's your turn to do it your way. Oh, no, that was the interlude music was your way.
It was 30 seconds of my way.
Yeah.
I should have had if I had known, I would have had my way ready, and then we'd have to pay some sort of copyright business. But
not if you play for like less than 30 seconds, right? Isn't there something like if you only
play I don't think that's technically a rule.
There's some fair use business in there. If you use it, it's not 30. I don't think it's 30 seconds. I think it's shorter than that. But anyway, moving on.
All right. Friends, today we are going to talk about game labels, gaming jargon, and all of the weird words that we use as gamers that we don't think about. And the reason that we're doing this is because Dan likes Euro games and I like Ameritrash games, and we just constantly butt heads. No, really. It's because this is a conversation that I think is very valid and relevant to the hobby that I think when you're entrenched as us, you tend to forget. And it comes up a lot. So what I want to start with is basically talking about whatever we're talking about. Let's define these gaming labels. What kind of words are we talking about? And how does our perspective interact with these things? So what we're talking about is the different categories, the different labels, the different words that we use to describe things. And not just Ameritrash and Euro games and things like that. There's a whole bunch of words that we use, like, what's a casual game? What's a family game? What does heavy mean? What's filler mean? And, how do we define those in our own terms? And how does our own perspective kind of interact with that? Because it seems to have a very subjective meaning, yet we talk very factual, very matter-of-fact a lot of the time. So, Dan, what are your thoughts on just kind of defining some of these words? Where do they fall for you?
Like how I define them?
Yeah.
Why
how does your perspective influence that?
I don't know. That's a deep question.
Welcome to the podcast of Nonsensical Gamers, a place for deep questions.
Yeah.
I'm in the tagline.
We go balls deep into podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Inappropriate.
Sorry, Tiff. We can cut that.
You can't cut
It's
it from our live listeners.
You've got audio. I don't know. I guess they kind of, like you mentioned, they give us a way to talk amongst each other, to kind of frame discussions about various games and various genres of games. I think, whether right or wrong, I think they're here, and I think they're here to stay. And I think people have tried to change them. I know Tom Vassell has changed Ameritrash to Amerithrash, which, whatever, I guess.
Might be worse.
He just added an H. I mean, it's not that original. But, yeah, it might actually be worse. I think Ameritrash has just a jokey nature to it. But I don't know. Like I said, I think it gives a way to kind of frame the discussion, because when I'm involved in the hobby, and when I hear people talking using this jargon and this kind of, technical speak, so to say, I can my brain can switch, and I kind of get, even if it's not, maybe 100% accurate, I kind of get an idea. If Matt tells me a game is, Ameritrashy, I'm going to go, okay, why is it I'll dig a little deeper, but I kind of set my expectation. Kind of like what we talked about with, like, Arcadia Quest last episode, where I mentioned, like, I set my expectations because I had read up, people had kind of told me this is a, quote, Ameritrash game, it's dice rolling, it's combat, it's conflict, it's just running around a board kind of thing. And when I set that expectation in my mind, I was able to enjoy myself a little bit more. I think I take a little bit more issues with games that maybe fall outside of the labels that I've kind of developed within my mind, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Tiff,
yeah.
what are your thoughts on the matter?
On labels in general, I mean, I think we as human beings need to categorize things. That's just a thing that we all do all the time. I mean, I do it. I like to put things in a bucket, but at the same time, being intelligent, I realize that, there's really nothing in this world that is 100%, game-wise, there's no 100% Ameritrash game. There are just, there are leanings. And when I was researching for this discussion, which I'm kind of nervous to have, honestly, just because there are a lot of controversy surrounding, especially when you use Ameritrash as a defining thing. But I did a lot of research, and I looked up the Board Game Geek wiki for Ameritrash, and there were a lot of interesting links in there. One of them was to a thread that was back in 2007 where someone, I think, defined it really the way I think about it, Jeremy Calgreen, and he said, Ameritrash, the core priority is drama. In a Euro game, the core priority is elegance, and in a war game, the core priority is realism, and that for all of these, you're going to see aspects of elegance in Ameritrash games, but the core, the focus of those games is always maximizing the drama. And that's why you see the elements of, that's why dice are so prevalent in Ameritrash games. That's why storytelling is so prevalent, because they add to the drama. So, I don't know. I think we need to label things to have quick conversations, and, if we're describing out every single game that we play, without the labels, our conversations are going to be longer.
And Tiff doesn't want to talk to you that long.
Yeah, exactly. Let's keep this quick.
So just go up to Tiff and go, game, in a box, Ameritrash, and then run away. You'd be like, oh, cool, I want to try that.
Well, so we're throwing words around. We got our Ameritrash, we've got our Euro, things like hybrid games, casual games, family games, lightweight, heavyweight, filler. What are we trying to describe with these different terms? Are we talking about complexity? Are we talking about depth of the decision tree? Just the mechanisms that are used in terms of, like, complexity and difficulty of that? Are we talking about length of time to play? Like, are there... I think filler games are typically, like, time-based, whereas Ameritrash doesn't tell me about the time length of a game.
Right. They're all different. I mean, filler is definitely a designation of time and complexity, as is heavy. Heavy is usually a more complex game that takes a long amount of time. Family game is probably related to filler game, but just could be longer, So I think a lot of them are telling you about the length and complexity, whereas Ameritrash and Euro seem to be the ones that are going more to what the mechanisms actually are. Because if you say filler game, it could be anything. But if you say Euro game, I'm thinking cubes, I'm thinking, worker placement.
Thinking beautiful.
I'm thinking
Yeah, well, okay. So
trading in
Dan,
the
what are you thinking when you
Mediterranean.
think Euro and Ameritrash?
Tiff kind of hit the nail on the head earlier when she said, or I said earlier, like she said it like 20 minutes ago. It was about 3.5 seconds ago. But what Tiff said with, when I think Ameritrash, I think the experience comes first, and when I think Euro, I think the mechanisms come first. That's kind of my general. If I had to kind of give an overarching theme to those, obviously I can drill that down, but yeah, I always think Euros the concentration is on the inner workings of the pieces, the puzzle that's presented, and just the exercise that the players go through. Whereas an Ameritrash game is like just all about the experience through die rolls, through those like high five moments, a card flip, a dice roll, anything like that. It's just driving the experience. There's a lot more theme. Everything that's in the game tries to tie to that theme in some way. There's an immersion. Whereas for a Euro, I think everyone always says, quote, pasted on theme, which I don't really like that term, but I think that a Euro game is designed mechanic first, and then somehow a theme gets emerges, and then you can tweak it there and there. But I'm not going to get upset in a Euro game if I don't really feel like I'm collecting a coconut from a tree or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and it just gets complicated because it's all an abstraction. So it's in the way like.
Well, yeah, like
to some extent we evaluate Euro games on their ability to feel like you're replicating a system, though. Like, when Euro games are like, yeah, I was running my factory, I was building my combos or whatever.
They're more
like,
simulation-based, I'd say. Similar
Yeah.
to what Tiff said with a war game. I think they try to simulate, as you mentioned, something that is real, something that took place, something along those lines.
Aren't you still trying to drive an experience then? But it's a more
It's a more cerebral
systematic
experience for me. Not to say that Ameritrash, again, everyone can get mad at me during this conversation, but
Oh, we're going to.
But for me, like I said, I think of Euro games as the mechanisms, as the puzzle, and they have their place in Ameritrash. Like, obviously, a dungeon crawl, you have to work together, you have to do certain things, but again, I think the experience of walking through that dungeon and flipping over a monster or something takes much more precedence in a Ameritrash game.
Well, and I think for both styles, there's a level of interaction that you expect when you hear Eurogame. You're probably expecting more indirect interaction, so you might be dealing with your own tableau and affecting other people's choices based on what you do on the central board, but you're not directly attacking anyone, whereas Ameritrash is definitely going to have generally more direct conflict, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Like I said, you could branch each of these down and give each a characteristic. I don't know if we have time to do all that, but
right.
Broadly speaking, those were my thoughts.
Well, and I think there are Euro game designers that start theme first, and the theme is important, whereas there are probably Ameritrash games that have been designed mechanisms first. So that is possible, but generally, it's a big generalization, right?
Well, I mean, if you take something like, the Imperial Assault Descent case, I mean, Imperial Assault is essentially a pasted-on theme of a system that's already been created. I mean, that was mechanic first to some extent, and then they took their IP and labeled it on there. There's nothing that really sets it apart as a Star Wars game as opposed to a fantasy dungeon-y game. So to that point, I mean, I think that there are ways that Ameritrash game, I'm going to create a game that has dice rolling and card flips, or I want to create, like, if you create a dungeon crawl, I don't know.
Well, and I mean, like, a lot of Ameritrash games have built-in imbalance, through player powers and things like that, whereas a Euro game is more about how to best solve this puzzle that you're all working on. That's what a lot of Euro games feel like to me. You all have the same thing that you're trying to do. Who can do it the best using their brains?
Yeah. So looking at these labels, kind of shifting a little bit, the purpose of these labels. Now, we've talked about how basically, I mean, we're fundamentals of language. I mean, we're trying to categorize, we're trying to communicate, and we're trying to describe in a faster way, in a more universal way, so we use terms like this. I mean, there's a very informational purpose to it. When you're pitching as a designer, or you're pitching as doing an advertisement or something like that, you might say it's a worker placement game instead of saying it's a game where you put things down and activate spaces and collect goods. Like you say worker placement, and you encompass a whole set, a whole process in one term. So there's clearly an informational value. I see that there's also a valuative value to these words, though, right? I mean, do you guys agree or disagree that there is sometimes there is an opinion communicated through these things?
Yeah, well, I think it's funny because it really just depends on where you see yourself in the spectrum of things. Like, this is gonna piss Dan off, maybe, but like,
let's do it. Let's do it. Not Dan specifically, but let's talk.
But like,
really.
This is a show about Dan.
So, okay, Dan is like our resident, like, hardcore Euro guy, yeah? So a lot of times, if he's talking about Ameritrash, that not necessarily being his style of game, from his point of view, it's not like a happy thing. You know what I mean? He's I don't want to say devaluing a Ameritrash game, but he's saying Ameritrash with a little bit of stank on it. Ameritrash, like not like Ameritrash.
Just not
like
my style of game. That's
Right.
all.
So I just think if you're on one side of the spectrum, and maybe you're not, maybe you're like weirdly in the middle, where I consider myself, like not one or the other. So when I say Ameritrash, I don't mean it as an insult, and a lot of times I'm very proud to say that I play those games. So I don't know. I think it's just based on your perspective. It can be an insult. It can be a value judgment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the question that I have, because even when, not even just like Ameritrash or Euro, I mean, it's just not something that you hear. You don't hear a lot of people say Euro with stank on it. You don't hear a lot of people be like, it's a Euro game.
I don't know. Like,
maybe
not the
I
word
think a lot of
Euro
people do
game,
that.
but the way people refer to like cube pushers usually is the way I've heard it, as the like derogatory, like, oh, boring cube pusher.
Or when people say Paystone theme, like
Soulless.
Dan pointed out.
Soulless Euro, yeah. But
Well,
there are a
Dan
lot
uses
of
that as a positive thing, though.
right.
Oh, it resonates in my soul. It doesn't resonate in everyone else's, but it has soul.
So I mean, and even things like when we talk about like, oh, it's just like a filler game or party game, something that I think would resonate with all three of us, like, we don't always say party game positively.
No.
Like, it's a party game.
Well, yeah, so party game has different things. Like for Tiff, that means social interaction, I probably think. Like, and not to
It
say that
makes
she
me
doesn't
nauseous
play.
is what it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, Tiff vomits when you say party game. I say it all the time to her, and she's just, "Ugh." That's what she does. It's kind of fun. So if anyone ever meets Tiff, just say party game, and then she'll
throw up.
She'll throw up
Yeah.
or poop herself, one of the two. Hopefully she throws up.
Wow. Thanks, Dan.
but,
I'm gonna have
you know,
people like assaulting me at conventions.
Yeah,
Awesome.
but like party games too, you think player count. That's like the first thing that comes to my mind. Like a lot of party games require like 3, 4, 5 plus people to make them enjoyable and interesting. And a lot of times that's just not something I have available to me, and not something I really want to. I mean, I like people, but I don't necessarily want to be around them all the time.
Yeah. It also speaks to like a complexity thing too, though. Generally, party games are not overly complex. They are not games that value, and this isn't fair to say because not all party games are like this, but like, you're not engaging in long-term strategy typically with party games because you're looking for fast-paced experience. You're looking for something that values the social interaction and brings that forth, which,
And I wish
again,
they'd-
like,
Go ahead, sorry.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I lost
Okay.
it. You wish
I'm
what?
gonna go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I
mean-
wish they'd stop with these games where someone has to be a judge. Like it seems like every party game that comes out, someone has to be a judge of something. It's like, no, let's be a little more creative, people.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it really just depends on where you're coming at it. When you say like something is just a filler game, like, yeah, okay. I think it's when you say it like that that it
Yeah.
becomes an insult. Like, oh, it's just a filler game. I love filler games. Like, it's a filler game. Yay! But there are a lot of people that are like, oh, it's just a filler game. Who cares? You know? So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, is that something that we think is pervasive? Is that something that is a common thing where people in whatever box they are in within the hobby, these, subset of a subset here, us gamers, but do you think that we tend to take sides or have loyalty to certain things that are our preferences? Are we less open-minded to other things just kind of naturally because we're human? I, I don't
I
know.
mean, I'm sure there are people in the hobby that are like that, not people that I tend to game with. I think
Yeah.
it just depends on your outlook. I like everything. You know, I like dice. I like soulless cube pushing Euros. So, I tend to play with people who have that mindset that they're willing to try anything once and go with it. So,
Yeah.
You could also use a label as a justification for like your opinion as well. I mean, like I said before, like Quadropolis, like it's a great family game. So that kind of, for me, that sets the expectation that this isn't a hardcore Euro. This is something that is accessible. It's approachable by multiple levels of your family, age range, skill level, etc. Plays in under 60 minutes. Like I tried to convey all that by just saying it's a really good family game, and I think
Yeah.
there's a lot that you can roll up into. It's not an insult. Like I wouldn't say it's just a family game, but I would say for a family style game. That's kind of how I usually kind of phrase, my opinions leading into kind of what I liked and disliked about it, because I think it sets, for those that are familiar with the jargon and understand kind of what we're talking about, it kind of sets the baseline. Okay, he's talking about a game that can play, like I said, 60 minutes. Anyone can play it. It's a very easy thing to explain, but it's not overly complex and difficult, but still enjoyable. Something
Yeah.
like that.
So using it to communicate all that information as opposed to saying it's a great family game or it's great for a family game kind of thing, like trying to put it in a box to segregate it
And
from
it's
other
not an
games.
insult. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just
Yeah.
it's used as almost a justification, and like I said, setting that baseline expectation when you're trying to kind of convey your opinion. Because it's tough.
Yeah.
There's so many, like Tiff mentioned earlier, or you, Matt, I'm sorry, whoever mentioned it. There's so many different games. You can't put a game into one bucket. It goes into 90 buckets. But you can use the different language that has been created within the hobby to kind of tailor it, almost like a web filter. I'm looking for a game that costs X to X dollar. I'm looking for this time length. Like, I think of it like that way. I don't think of it as an insult, but I'm saying, if someone does say just a filler game, when I hear filler, I'm not thinking to myself, ooh, there's going to be this tense 3-hour struggle with 4 other players. Like, I'm thinking, that's like 15 minutes. I'm going to have fun, and we'll be done with it.
Well, how does that work with, like, or how does that, and this is getting into, I wonder how, this impacts our ability to communicate across people. How does, our personal definitions impact that, because for someone like Mom, when we played like Mombasa, that's that's like the heaviest game she's ever played. So in her mind, that's like top tier heavy game. In our mind, probably more like midweight Euro game. So how do we communicate? Someone's 1 hour game could be someone else's filler game. How do we deal with those miscommunications when we're talking about games?
well, I mean, I think you have to keep in mind who it is you're speaking with. I mean, if you're talking to someone who predominantly plays family games or filler games or party games, you're going to tailor your description of a game and its heaviness and complexity based on that knowledge. If you don't know anyone, if you don't know that, if you're talking to a larger audience like we do, that's where those miscommunications can happen. But
Yeah.
it's really super subjective, and it's really hard to get that out there if you have a huge audience that you're talking to. I like to think that everybody that listens to our podcast is relatively familiar with this jargon and know when we're saying a heavy game, it's a game that's going to last like 2 hours plus. It's going to have a lot of bits and pieces. It's going to have, a thick rule book and some exceptions to rules and things like that. So
Well, and that speaks to, part of my question here about communicating. If someone happens to stumble across the podcast of Nonsensical Gamers, being as wonderful as we are, and huge, I mean, we're huge,
A
everybody.
podcast about Dan.
A podcast about Dan. They type in Dan into their iTunes search, and podcast of Nonsensical Gamers pops up.
Basically.
How is it difficult for us? Is it hard to communicate with newer gamers with all this jargon floating around? Is it hard for them to get in? Is this a barrier to entry, trying to understand
yes.
what all these terms mean, and then the intricacies of understanding the subjectiveness of it?
I think that's any hobby, though. I mean,
Yeah,
every
that's
hobby
true.
has a barrier. I mean, I used to do paintball, and I used to, I'm looking into now getting back into mountain biking and stuff like that, and I read some of these articles and reviews, and I have no clue what these people are talking about. And I used to do this stuff, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of taking it upon yourself to kind of ingrain yourself in that community, learn what that jargon means. Obviously, it's such a welcoming community. If you had questions, people will answer them. Like if somebody asked us to have a discussion on what we mean by X, we would do it. It's not that we won't. It's just, again, we set that bar for, the listeners having that baseline knowledge, but it's not to insult anyone who doesn't. I think any hobby has that barrier to entry, and you just need to, if it's something you're interested in, you do more research. I think that's how we all started. I mean, I didn't know what an Ameritrash or a Euro style game was, 10 years ago. I just knew there was Catan. I didn't know Catan was called a Euro. I just knew Catan was about this little asshole robber running around stealing my sheep. Get off my sheep.
I mean, I think that's where most people start, right? With Catan, or I started with Pandemic, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that this kind of game existed. I want to find more games like this, and that's where I stumbled across Board Game Geek, and there's a lot of information if you can navigate its intricacies. On Board Game Geek about this kind of stuff. There are filters so you can look through and find games like this, and just by searching and looking at different games, you start to pick up on that jargon. So, or watching YouTube videos. It's the same way for any hobby. I mean, for me, it's been my experience over the past year in cameras and video shooting, and it's really funny to go back because, right now, I just recently watched a video that I remember watching a year ago and thought, oh my god, I don't know what any of this means, holy crap. And now I watch it, I'm like, no big deal. So, I just think it's a process, it's a learning process, and like Dan said, once you get interested in something like this, you're going to dive in and you're going to do a little bit of research. And even if you're not okay, what is an Ameritrash game, and you're looking up that definition, you're going to see that pop up on either the games that you're playing or the games that you're not, and kind of define it that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is all great. I like all this. I'm gonna round us out on just the best question.
Oh no.
And we will go as deep into this as people are willing to, and we'll just probably keep it shallow. Is there a gaming class system? Is there people think some games are better than others, some style of games. People awfully hate dice sometimes. Yep. People on this podcast hate dice.
I don't think it's a class. I think it's their opinions. I don't know if it's a class system.
Well, and even looking at different companies, where they come from, looking at designer board games versus non-designer board games, they're technically all still games. I mean, we value those games above your Candylands and your Monopolies.
I love Candyland. Don't even start.
That's an awful game.
Well,
it's fun though.
I mean, as someone who's super deep in the hobby, I mean, I mounted my copy of Pizza Party in a shadow box and display it proudly in my home. So Pizza Party from the 80s, it was one of my
put the pepperonis in the circles.
Yeah,
good. It's just a matching game. It's so dumb, but I loved it. It's one of my first board game memories, and so I made it art. But so I think you can still, even though. And the big distinction, the big class system part that I kind of hate is this: I'm a gamer. This person is not a gamer. Well, if you play games, you're a gamer. And, my board game club kids, their life isn't dominated by board games. They don't go on Board Game Geek. They barely know. I have one kid who religiously watches Tabletop. And so, he considers himself a gamer, and some of the other kids maybe not so much. But the truth is they all show up every Monday to play board games, so they're all gamers. And I think that's the part of the class system that I worry the most about, where we're creating a barrier to entry for people by labeling them as non-gamers based on their level of experience in the hobby.
Rumor has it that tabletop needs some people to read rules for them, so...
Dan. That's an old joke.
It's not. It's still relevant because I hate Will Wheaton. But
Wow.
Sorry.
Well, so I mean, it's just like that's just what I wonder. Like when you look at people, like is the person who plays 20-minute filler games every week as much of a gamer as the person who plays 3-hour Euro games every week, or who runs
absolutely.
a podcast or a blog or something?
I think if you play games, you're a gamer. It's that simple, and I don't think that there should be a hierarchy in that, you know?
But is there a secret hierarchy?
What do you
Is
think?
it there? I think
it
that to
boils
some
down to your
extent
opinion.
It is. What do you say?
It boils down to your opinion. Like, I like Euro games. I don't look down upon anyone who plays a Ameritrash game. I don't call them a non-gamer. I just say that's not my style of game. I'd rather play a Euro game. Like,
Well, you say those games suck.
they do, in my opinion, but that's my opinion. Again, I don't think it's like a class thing. I think it's just my opinion.
I think in that case, it's more of like you're talking about the game. You're not talking about the people who play the game.
Yeah, no, those people are gamers.
There's also this piece of like, there's this underlying, like Dan mentioned earlier, valuing the cerebral experience of a Euro game. Like to make it sound like people who primarily like Ameritrash games or filler games or party games, like less thinky, less intelligent, like a less capable individual because they don't interact with those games in that same way. Like there is something there, I think.
Maybe.
No, I don't view anyone as less intelligent or because they don't like these games. It's just people want different experiences from the hobby, and you tailor your gaming collection and what you play to those experiences you want. Sometimes I even want just to sit down and roll a damn set of dice and just see what happens. Like, it's funny.
I want to be there on that day, Dan.
It's not often, but
give me a call when you feel like rolling some dice.
Yeah, I sometimes
just
play those games.
In my mind, I think that there's as much value to, like, there's still planning, there's still interaction, there's still brain power being used when you're rolling dice and moving around a dungeon as when you're trying to figure out how much wheat you're making. And no, it's not the exact same processes.
The focus is different. The mechanism is.
But what if somebody like plays those games because they like the challenge or something like that, you know?
Well, and there's a creativity aspect too. Like a lot of Ameritrash games give the players a little bit more ability to think creatively and work within the rule system. That's why the rule books, I think, are so unbelievably thick, because, you know, the players of those games think very creatively, and so there are a lot of like, okay, there's this rule, but if this happens, you can do this and this and this and this. So there would be a lot of like subsections of a rule. My boy Richard Lanius's rule books are like that, and it's sometimes frustrating, but yeah, I just think it's a. Oh, I wish he was here. Yeah, it's too bad. But I don't know. I've never thought of it as like one style of game being better than other, or certainly never one type of player being better than the other. But I mean, we have to face it. There are jerks everywhere in every hobby, and I mean, honestly, I think board games have fewer jerks than a lot of hobbies that you can research on the internet. And but there are people who probably think that way. I don't think that makes it the case, though.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm just putting these questions out there to see what comes back. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, I think they both tailor a different experience for those. It's a more, and obviously it's up to you to kind of give you that bespoke kind of experience that you're looking for. Like I said, I'm looking for a puzzle. If I can find a quote Ameritrash game that has a puzzle that I enjoy, I'm not going to not play it because it's an Ameritrash game. But I've found in my experience the games I enjoy most are of the quote Euro style that have those kind of complex inner workings. They're a little bit more strategic, which I think I've really narrowed down in my last couple of years that I prefer a game with a long-term goal as opposed to these little short terms here and there. And things like that. I mean, there's a ton of things you can garner from that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I really like making fun of your love of abstract games, Matt, but like I don't I don't think you're a different class of gamer from me because that's what you love to do. Like I respect it. It's just not what I like, and it's fun to make fun.
I totally think I'm a better gamer than you, Tiff.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Abstract
I played Android
gamers, they're all
mainframe, and
jerks.
you played Happy Cup or whatever it was called.
Hurry Cup.
Hurry Cup.
Bowser.
Yeah, see, I can't even say your game names right. I belittle them so much. No, I think that we can all hold hands, meeple and dice together, and we can push cubes and flip cards, and everyone can be friends.
I think so too.
Yeah, but I think it's still a valuable conversation, mainly from understanding that all these words mean different things in our minds, and it's good to take a step back and think about what someone's saying when they speak, and what does that mean for them, and what are they trying to communicate. So that's where this comes from.
Good discussion, guys.
We did it. We did it. So hey, we'll wrap it up there. We can chat over on the Guild. We'll start up a thread or something. We can chat on Twitter, things like that. If you want to know about all those social media informations, listen now. Because we appreciate you joining us for this live episode 44 of the podcast of Nonsensical Gamers. And you can chat with us more about this topic over on Facebook by searching for the League of Nonsensical Gamers. Shoot us an email if you want to secretly tell me that abstract games are way better than filler games. And at podcast@nonsensicalgamers.com. You can join us over at the BGG Guild number 2077. Check out the contest entry thread over there and ask for a micro badge. Ask for some geek gold to get a micro badge. Check us out on Instagram, #nonsensicalgamers. iTunes reviews are always appreciated if you value the content and you want to give us some stars. Yes, Daniel?
Don't forget, we're now on Google Play.
Oh, are we?
I believe, yeah, we were approved for Google Play, and you can rate us there too, please.
Cool, and find us there if you don't use iTunes. iTunes and Google Play reviews. And the best place to chat with us personally is over on Twitter. Tiff, if they want to talk with you, how do they do that?
I am at IneptGamer.
Daniel, if they want to talk with you, how do they do that? By not calling me Daniel, that's for sure.
Sorry, Danny, how do they talk with you?
D-Sizzle. I mean, that's what I'm going by now.
Oh, jeez. A show about Dan.
At scandalous_Nad if you want to talk personal stuff. Or at League Nonsense if you want to talk non-personal stuff, but still a little bit personal.
Dan always gets personal, whether you like it or not.
I don't mind being. I'm an open book. Look at me. Read this.
That's
what I scream.
You can find me at Cinnamon Buns, spelled phonetically.
Dumbly.
Thank you all for joining us. We will see you next week for some Boardcast news. Join us then. And everyone say bye-bye.
Toodles.
Bye.
Were you just raving to a kazoo?
Me?
I do what I gotta do, man.
Oh, yeah.
Matt was
You gotta
doing
entertain
some kind
people.
of King Kong looking dance. I don't know what he was doing.
Don't hate. Don't hate. This is for the live show. If you come, you get to see my dance moves.
I'm not hating.
I'm just saying.
All right.
What is this, episode 44?
Are we still online?
Oh, yeah, okay. I'll stop the broadcast, I guess.
Bye.